It has been a hot minute, hasn't it? I haven't live streamed in a week. My plant behind me has decided to end its life, clearly. I need to get a new one. But hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Apologies for my absence over the last week. I have been sick. I'm clearly a potential trouble source connected to suppressive people, enemies of the church. That's what Scientology teaches when you're ill. It's because you pulled it in and you're connected to an enemy of the church, which clearly I am. So I've been taking some time to recover, to rest up, and I'm still not 100%. You could probably hear my voice is a little bit croaky. But I'm much better now than I have been over the last week, particularly. And I thought I would jump on live to share with you some news about an event that I'm organising this June in East Grinstead, and also a few updates from inside the bubble that have been sent through to me from insiders. But first, let's say hello to everybody in the chat. We have Hans Christian Schwartz here. Guten Abend. Thank you for joining, my friend. Becky, Big Brother fan here. Hello from Reading, UK. Good to see some familiar faces here. Dandy Warhol is here. Powerlise to Paralyze, of course. Sharon Marks here. Good evening from Australia. From a Poet is here. Miriam from Scientology up north over in Denmark. Thank you for joining. Irish Mart is also here. Good to see so many of you. Lupita, I see in the chat. Thank you so much. Alrighty. So when I started my YouTube channel, I set out to do basically one thing. I wanted to share my story on YouTube to give an idea that abuse, harm, neglect, these things happen in Scientology at every level of the organization, in every city in which it operates. When I first started Googling Scientology for the first time, the narrative was predominantly focused on the C organization, the executives over at in America who served in the upper echelons of management in Scientology. And of course, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want to diminish those stories in any way, shape, or form. But I needed to hear, for me personally, a UK voice. I needed to hear somebody who was working at a city level church, somebody in the UK or Europe who had experienced something similar to me. And yes, there was John Atack. There were interviews out there from British ex-Scientologists, but nothing recent and nobody coming online on YouTube on a regular basis. And so I thought, perhaps if I share my story, it might help some other people who are perhaps under the radar or who needed to hear a similar story to help them understand that they are not alone, that there are people here in the UK who have suffered in Scientology. And I thought I could do that. I could share my story, but most importantly, I could provide a platform for other people to share their stories. That was it. That's why I started YouTube. I didn't want to become necessarily an activist. I didn't want to start protesting. I just wanted to share my story and provide a platform for other people to do the same. And of course, over the years, that has developed and I've become a prolific, outspoken critic. I've organized protests and all sorts. And I've sort of grown over the last 3 years, I think. And I was watching some old videos of mine just the other day. And it's really clear to see how I've grown and developed over the last 3 years, which I think is lovely in its own thing. However, that mission to provide a platform for survivors remains unchanged. And I, as well as campaigning for the legislative change that is needed to help survivors seek justice here in the UK, as well as organising protests and working with politicians and policymakers and that sort of thing to try and, up the pressure on Scientology to conform with the law and to provide support for survivors. I also really, really am focused on making sure that, that people have a platform and a space to share their stories about what they suffered inside Scientology in the UK. And also ensure that people don't realize or don't think that there is some sort of pressure to become an activist. If you leave Scientology, it's perfectly okay for you to walk out the door, never look back, never think about it again, and not speak out. That's totally fine. And it's also okay if you want to share your story once and that's it. Leave it at that. You don't have to become a protester or an activist. Of course, I welcome those who do, but I really want to shine a light on people here in the UK who've experienced Scientology, so that people understand there is a community of us here, and we all have our own stories, and there are several things that link them all, regardless of what level of the organization you were in, or which city you were in, or how long ago you were in Scientology. And so that brings me to me changing my efforts slightly this year. I've really upped the game in terms of what I'm trying to do here in the UK this year. As I think you should already be aware, I've had the documentary about L. Ron Hubbard released earlier this year on my channel. We've had Amir and Zoe speaking out for the first time. And we also have the French documentary that was released just the other week. I'm going to be doing a whole separate live stream on that. But the efforts have certainly amplified over the last few months as we've come into this new year, based on what I've learned and finding my feet as an activist. And one of the things that I really want to focus on this year is not just providing a platform here on YouTube, but also raising awareness in a boots on the ground, old school, traditional activist kind of way. And one of those things that I'm planning is to hold an event in East Grinstead. Now, East Grinstead is the home of Scientology's UK headquarters, St Hill Manor. L. Ron Hubbard purchased St Hill in 1959, and it served as the worldwide headquarters of Scientology for a few years before he moved on to pastures new. And by pastures new, I mean fleeing the country after the Home Office cracked down on L. Ron Hubbard, and he was wanted for example, tax fraud and so on over in France. So he fled to the high seas. But nonetheless, it is still an important outpost for Scientology, a management outpost here in the UK. And it's the home of the IES event, the IES being Scientology's membership body, the International Association of Scientologists. It's the largest, biggest fundraising event in the Scientology calendar every year, and it happens in East Grinstead. And Scientology at St. Hill have been engaging in a prolific campaign of what's called safe pointing, trying to win over local elected officials and opinion leaders, for example, by getting the mayor to turn on their Christmas lights and attend events at St. Hill. And make no mistake, this isn't an organization that is trying to provide support and help and events for the local community. They are only engaging in these things because they want to assert control and influence over the town. This is laid out in policy letters written by L. Ron Hubbard. I have published many of these before. Safe pointing, the goal of it is to bring an area under their control so that these officials look the other way when people stand up and say, I was abused by this organization. So it is coercive in its nature, and it is underhanded, it is bad faith acting, and I want to try and raise awareness of that this is going on in East Grinstead. And one of the ways I'm doing that this year is this event in June. Now, this event will be not an attack on Scientology. It's not a chance for people to stand on stage and be like, hey, down with Scientology. You know, it's not a protest against their religious or so-called religious beliefs. It is simply an opportunity for survivors to take the stage, to share their stories and experiences, and tell the people of East Grinstead why it's important they don't turn a blind eye to Scientology's attempts to infiltrate and control the local town. So, this event is open to all people to attend. Obviously, it's focused on local residents in East Grinstead, and it will be taking place. I'm pleased to announce, here is the event page on ScientologyBusiness.com, my blog. If we bring me up here and share in this way, let's move the screen like that. There we go. Lovely. All right. I've put the link to this in the description for those of you who want to take a closer look. Tickets are currently available. We've got plenty of time for people to organize travel and so on. But it's called Fame, Fortune, and Fear, Scientology's soft power agenda. The Church of Scientology has had significant presence in the quiet countryside town of East Grinstead, and so on, like I just explained. Over recent years, we've seen mounting pressure from residents and the local authority amidst growing controversy around the church's annual IES event, which takes place at St Hill every October, with the internet providing a platform for former members to share their stories. Stories continue to emerge that paint a dark picture of what life is really like behind closed doors. So I invite you to join us on the June the 6th, and here are the speakers that will be talking at the event. Dr. Alexandra Stain, who is the chairman of the Family Survival Trust. She is a well-known, renowned cult expert, writer, educator. She's also an honorary research fellow at the London South Bank University, and she's going to be talking about the legislative change that is needed around coercive control, the Serious Crime Act, and so on that we've discussed before. She's going to be giving some real insight into what sort of action people can take to help survivors of abuse in Scientology seek justice and so on. So really excited to have her talk. Obviously, myself, the lovely, wonderful Danielle Chamberlain, who is in the house here saying, don't forget to click the like button and share. Thank you so much, Danielle. Danielle, of course, has her own horrific story of abuse at St. Hill and serving the founder of Scientology, Aaron Hubbard, on the flagship Apollo. The wonderful Amir is going to be joining us from Scotland, who only left a couple of weeks ago, giving a real insight into recent activities and what it's like at St. Hill today. He was at the IES event in October just gone, so he can give some really valuable, up-to-date, recent insight. The amazing Bonnie Woods will be joining us. She, for those of you who don't know, won a landmark lawsuit against Scientology. I think it was in the early 2000s. Scientology distributed leaflets and flyers defaming her and saying horrible things about her throughout East Grinstead when she set up a support network for survivors to find the help that they need in East Grinstead. Scientology went after her hard and she won a lawsuit. So she's a great insight, and I can't wait to hear what she's got to say. Zoe is also going to be joining us. We did an interview with Zoe very recently. She's an ex-Scientologist that decided to speak out just, I think, a week or two ago. Again, another horrific story of abuse, being a child at St. Hill, working in the Sea Organization. Stephen Jones, who was again in the Sea Org at St. Hill. He's also a local resident that lives in East Grinstead, and he's joined our protests over the last couple of years. And Pete Griffiths, who will be flying over from Ireland. Again, he had a lawsuit involving Scientology, and he has been a prolific activist for many years. He was the head of a mission up in the north of England and also spent time at St. Hill, I believe in the 90s. He talked about how he was punished at St. Hill for one time, and he had to move old, dusty and mouldy books in the basement from one side of the room to the other for no reason other than punishment. So these are the people that will be talking at this event, and I think it's really important for the people of East Grinstead to attend, not to slur Scientology, but to listen, to hear what these people have to say about what their experience was like inside Scientology, and you can make up your own mind what you think about the group, what you think should be done about it. We just want to have a space where we can share our stories. So for those of you who are in the UK and would like to attend, you've got plenty of time to figure out your travel plans and so on. Tickets are available on Scientologybusiness.com and on Eventbrite. They cost £12.50, which I think is a bargain for so many amazing speakers to talk. And of course, this is not exactly going to be turning over a profit. The £12.50 is just to cover things like venue hire and, microphones and that sort of thing. So we're not going to be profiting from this event. The ticket price is just to cover expenses. And if you are financially unable to spend £12.50 on a ticket, but you would like to attend, please just drop me an email, hello@apostatealex.com, and I will be more than happy to give you a free ticket. This isn't about making money. It's about raising awareness. So please don't let finances be a barrier to you attending. But I think it's really important and I'm really, really looking forward to it. It will be in East Grinstead, and you'll note I haven't announced the venue just yet, and that is because Scientology, of course, will throw everything they can at getting this event shut down, and they will do whatever they can to pull the venue or to get the venue to not host us and that sort of thing. So I'm going to hold off on announcing the venue just yet because I don't want the venue to be hassled by Scientology, and I don't want them to have to go through that harassment. And also, I thought it'd be quite fun for the Office of Special Affairs to guess and to keep them wondering, where is this thing going to be taking place? I can assure you it will be in East Grinstead, and we will announce the venue before it happens, so that those of you who want to attend can actually go because you want to know where it is. So you will find out that information in due course, but I'm going to hold off on announcing it just yet. But please do consider getting a ticket. If you can't be there in person because, for example, you're not in East Grinstead or you're not in the UK, you can support the movement and the event through Buy Me a Coffee. There's a link in the description, buymeacoffee.com/apostatealex, and I've set up a wish list item, which is for those of you who want to contribute towards the event costs, travel costs, for example. It would be lovely to be able to contribute towards those who are speaking at the event and their travel costs and accommodation and that sort of thing. And so if you want to support financially in that way, please do consider donating to the wishlist item through Buy Me a Coffee. I will also be using that money to pay it forward. So for people who want to come that can't afford a ticket, if we have a little pot of money that we can use to cover those costs, that would be great. So please do consider doing that. And someone has just asked here, will it be live streamed? I absolutely plan on recording the talk. Excuse me. I don't know if we're going to live stream it, to be confirmed, but absolutely it will be recorded and made available for those of you further afield who can't be there in person. Question here from Scientology Up North. Question, do you know if there's subtitles in English available for the documentary? Yes, there is an English version of this documentary that is being prepared and will be released. I can't say too much more than that at the moment. The French rights belong to France 5, the national broadcaster that broadcasts the documentary. And I understand that an English version will be available at some point. So stay tuned for that one, and I'll give you more information when I can. Eaglewood here, the interview after the documentary was good. They warned the people on health pyramid scheme. I think I've missed a bit of that conversation, but cool. Thank you. Ashton Bitter here. Wow, what a great lineup of speakers. Unfortunately, I can't be there, but will contribute towards the event. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Becky, Big Brother fan here, saying, what venue is the event being held at? To be announced, 100%. So that's the news in terms of the event. I have one more thing I want to share with you, and that is news from inside the bubble. People from inside Scientology send me stuff all the time, whether it's propaganda, promotional materials, whether it's their Impact magazine and so on. It comes from various sources, and I like to publish the things that I think are relevant or interesting. And one thing that I wanted to really talk about was children in the Sea Organization. Scientology claims that children no longer work in the Sea Organization. You have to be over the age of 18 to sign your life away to working for the church. For those of you who don't know, the Sea Organization is the 1 billion year contract that staff members sign. These supposed volunteers, workers, spend their lives dedicated to working for the church. They are provided communal birthing and accommodation and food, allegedly, and a weekly stipend of just £50 or $50 in return for 7 days a week, 14, 16, 18-hour days with no time off for the rest of your life. I believe the Sea Organization is a form of modern slavery, and for those people who are members of the Sea Org and want to leave, find it very difficult because they end up losing all of their connections with the outside world because Scientology controls every aspect of your life when you're in the Sea Organization. So Scientology claim that children aren't allowed in the Sea Organization anymore. However, on their own website, Scientology.org.uk, their UK website, I was doing some digging here, and I found this article on FAQs, which is talking about, are young children allowed in the Sea Organization? what's the best way of showing it? I think this way here. And it talks here about the history of the seal, blah, blah, blah. But what's quite telling here is it says minors are permitted to voluntarily join the Sea Organisation with the consent of a parent or a guardian approved by the parents. Once in the Sea Organisation, if the minor's parents are not also members of the Sea Org, the minor must then also have an assigned guardian approved by their parents. So here on the Scientology website, it is confirming, despite what they tell the press, that children are allowed to join the Sea Organisation, which I think is a problem because children can't consent. And do you really understand the nature of the contract you are signing if you are 14, 15, 16 years old? I certainly didn't when I signed my staff contract and subsequently signed my Sea Organisation contract. And of course, most children in Scientology, if not all, are going to be from Scientology families. Their parents will be Scientologists. So of course they're going to sign to agree for their child to join the Sea Organisation. So I think this is a problem. And something that was sent through to me is proof that Scientology are currently still recruiting children into the Sea Organisation here in the United Kingdom. Here is the article on my blog, Scientologybusiness.com. Now, I have blanked out the faces of all the people that appear in this article for privacy reasons here on YouTube. But of course, Scientology published these pictures unredacted, and it is very clear that these are kids, and they are holding signs saying, "I'm joining the Sea Org." So here is a recent propaganda piece of material with various people who've signed their Sea Org contract here in the UK. And of course, there are some adults there, but there are also some children. And I think this is extremely concerning, especially when you hear about the level of neglect and abuse that occurs for minors in the Sea Org here in the UK. So this is confirmation that children are being recruited into the Sea Org. There's also a few other minor updates that you might be interested in. There is now a St. Hill World Tour. Representatives from St. Hill will be traveling the world to try and recruit new members into the Sea Organisation and reg them for donations, try and get people to agree to services at St. Hill. They will be attending Toronto on the 6th of March. London was the 20th of February. Quebec on the 13th of March. Cambridge on the 21st of February, and Happy, Scotland, on the 6th of March. So if you are in any of these cities and the date is coming up and you would like to protest, I would encourage you do so. Representatives from the UK will be in your city. There's also a flyer here about an 80-year race with a guest speaker from Flag on the 8th of March at St. Hill. Interesting. I just thought I'd share it. And of course, the latest OT completions. There are 4 people who've started the OT levels at St. Hill in the last week. For the fastest growing religion on planet Earth, I'm going to be honest, I expected more than just 4 people, because they claim to have millions of members worldwide and hundreds of thousands here in the UK. But no, just 4 people. Anyway, and the biggest news, I think, is the birthday game. So for those of you who don't know, the law in Scientology is that once somebody asked L. Ron Hubbard what he wanted for his birthday, which is March 13th, and he responded, all he wants is expansion. And since then, Scientology have had what's called the birthday game, where orgs around the world compete against each other to try and expand Scientology to, unprecedented levels. So this game revolves around points. So each org will score points based on what their statistics are doing. If they sell more books, if they deliver more auditing hours, if they get more people in through the door, you're awarded points. And each org competes. And at the end of the year in March, there is a big international event where the winners of the birthday game are crowned. The winners, they get a big trophy and so on and so forth. So that's the nature of the birthday game. And I've been sent this flyer here, which shows, as of last week ending 19th of February 2026, the current birthday game standings. And this is for the Class 5 orgs. So there's different standings for the advanced orgs like St. Hill, Flag, and so on. There's standings for the missions and the Class 5 orgs, which are the city level organizations. And it's very telling to see which orgs are expanding the most. as per these stats. So let's have a look. Number 1 is Denmark, the organization over in Copenhagen. Now, I know Denmark is the name of a country, but this is referring only to the Copenhagen org because it's the only one in Denmark. In Scientology, it's just referred to as Scientology org Denmark. But Copenhagen is leading cumulatively the birthday game standings, followed by Eastern Cape, Washington, D.C., Kaohsiung over in, I think it's Taiwan, Milan, Padova, Tokyo, San Francisco, New York, and Stuttgart. So there are no UK orgs in the top 10 when it comes to Scientology's expansion this year so far. Obviously, the weekly and the quarterly standings are slightly different, but cumulative is over the course of the last year. So I wouldn't be surprised if the standings are not too different from this when we get the winners being announced in March, but it gives you a sign of where Scientology are focusing their efforts in terms of expansion across the world. And Miriam from Scientology Up North, if you're still watching this, I think this is a sign for you to carry on doing the good work that you've been doing, protesting Scientology over in Denmark. And if you are in Denmark, please go and support Miriam from Scientology Up North because Scientology are focusing their efforts on Denmark very clearly, and they are expanding despite the protest efforts. So time to up the game in Denmark. If you can, please go and support her channel. Here we go, Scientology Up North. I must have cut them a bit too much slack due to my sick leave. Well, look, it's not your responsibility to lead protesting in the whole country, and you are, of course, allowed sick leave. But if you are watching this, please go and support Miriam. And of course, this isn't a sign that the protesting isn't working. This is a sign that Scientology have assigned resources and people and time and money into expanding that particular org. And the birthday game points aren't necessarily reflective of actually how many people are joining Scientology. It's reflective of things like how much the org is delivering in terms of services, how many books they're selling to existing parishioners, how many events they're doing, how many people are walking in through the doors and studying on course, for example. So your efforts absolutely will be making a difference in stopping people joining Scientology. These numbers don't necessarily reflect how good your efforts have been. So don't take this as a sign that you're not doing enough, Miriam. This is a sign you're actually doing the right thing and your efforts are focused in the right place, because that's where Scientology are trying to expand. Alrighty, Gary Palmer here. Are you going to protest for LRH birthday? A couple of people have been asking me this. It's a very good question. And for now, I will say, watch this space. If I do protest or organize a protest, you will hear about it here on this channel. And I will announce it in due course if that is something that is going to be taking place. Susan Sussex here saying, bit off topic, but I live next to Walsh Manor in Crowborough. There seemed to be more buses than usual going to St. Hill last weekend. Are you aware of anything special happening? Very interesting to hear from you. Thank you so much, Steve. There are always events at St. Hill. It is entirely possible there was something last week. Please do email me, hello@apostatealex.com. I'd be very interested to talk to you and hear about what life is like in Crowborough and whether you see Scientologists very regularly, what times the buses arrive and leave and so on. And yeah, let's have a conversation. So please do reach out if you can. Alrighty, guys. So that's it from me. Just a short one. Oh, look, we got Liz Gale in the house. Thank you so much for joining this. All right, guys. So that's the news from me. If you are in the UK and you want to attend the event in East Grinstead on June 6th, please do get a ticket. And please do, if you're not in the UK or you can't attend, consider contributing towards the event cost, because it is providing a platform for survivors to share their stories, which is one of the main goals for me this year. There's a lot to come from me over the next couple of weeks. I just want to get over the final hurdle of this sickness that I have been, recovering from. Before I go, I'm just going to play you the video teasing the event, promoting the event, and then we'll draw the live stream to a close. So thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Stay with me for another minute and a half to watch this video, and I will see you guys on the next one.
Scientology has a policy that forbids its members from contacting law enforcement in the event of a crime.
Crucially, as regards the protests in 23 and 24, the police made no arrests, there were no incidents reported to them of hate speech, no public order infringements were recorded. I have watched YouTube clips of interviews with officers at the 2024 process, which confirms that the protests were peaceful and by and large good-natured.
At age 16, I was taken out of school by the Scientologists against my will and was told I could not take my A-levels. I had to work for the organisation instead.
Everything that you hear from ex-Scientologists is still happening. And we know that because all of the policies are exactly as they were.
SEERG members are not allowed to leave when they want to leave. They're often told they are not allowed to see family. If anyone in their family says anything negative about Scientology, they're not allowed to speak to them.